Hi, and welcome back. This is Tracy Baskin, the owner of Infinite Healing Center, a Baskin Belief System company. So, this is part two, or one of many series in our sexuality belief systems. Um, Today, we're actually going to be talking about parenting and sex. This subject is a pretty hot topic. Um, Many books on it. Um, but the age old question is that, do you allow your school or the education system to educate your children about sex, or do you do it at home? So there's a lot of controversy around this issue, and I'm just going to kind of go out there and just let you know what I've seen and what are the benefits to actually being able to communicate with your children at a very early age about sexuality. Now, when we talk about that, we want to make sure that each one of your children, when you talk to them, that it's age appropriate, right? So you want to be able to communicate with your children. I can just give you an example that you can talk to your child when it, becomes you become aware of it. If they are sexually interested, but usually that's a little bit too late, right? So you want to be able to have your child have an understanding of what sexuality is and what your belief system that you're wanting to tell them. Just like uh, your your religious beliefs, right? So you have no problem telling your child, your teenager, or your neighbor, or anything else, right, about what your spiritual beliefs are, or what your career beliefs are, or what your education beliefs are. So why do we skip out on the sexual beliefs? We just assume that they know, or we think that we actually let them know. We think that we've communicated it to them. What happens 9 times out of 10 is that your, especially teenager, has no, they don't feel like they have any direction. They've just kind of gone with, what's been given to them, hearsay, or what they've observed. This happens all the time with teenagers, right? They are always thinking, oh, yeah, I can, have sex one time and it's not going to count, or I can never have sex because it's just like the most horrible thing in the world, right? But they have the urges to that. Our biology, our wonderful little biological system that Mother Nature gave us says that we want to reproduce, right? So we want to be able to educate our children at an age. Some people, start educating their children. I mean, this is actually a very interesting fact. So there's two ends of the spectrum, right? So you have a tribe that's on the other side of the world, right? And then you have another tribe that's on the completely opposite side of the world. This is actually true. I can't remember who or what the tribe's names are, but one belief system of this community and this culture on one side of the world believed that sex was absolutely 110% the most important thing in a relationship with oneself and another. They actually would, from a very, very young age, start teaching them about pleasure. Not in a negative sense where you're like, what we're thinking, what you might be thinking, or most people think about sex. It is more of, hey, learn to love the pleasures of your body, learn good touch, learn things about your body, because when you get to a certain age, you're going to come into a pubescent, excuse me, a phase in life. And our beliefs is that this is the whole reason why we're here on this planet Earth. And so what happens, it's a very extreme side of it, this tribe and this culture. And what they believe is that they need to teach their young, or their children about their intimate part of their selves, right? So what that means is that they start teaching them that so the women take the girls and they say, okay, this is about your body. This is your whole entire body, and this is what it does. And these are the pleasure centers. Respect yourself, love yourself. And then the boys get the same thing from the male side. They say, okay, this is the most important part, right? So it kind of reminds me of a tribe that's, just in love. I mean, it's a love tribe, a sexual love tribe, right? But there is extremes. There's such extremes that they have that, if you basically, when you get married, if you don't have this sexual compatibility, then it's a no-go. They make sure that before marriage that this is a compatibility that is very strong, and pleasuring each other is the most important thing above making money, providing. I mean, that's the most important. So the men are taught, the pubescent boys and stuff, they are actually taught how to please a woman. And they are also taught how to self-please, right? And so I don't want your mind to kind of go crazy with what all that means, but it's a very innocent type of process. So it's not anything that is negative-minded. Now, on the other side of the world is another belief system, and it's a complete 180 from the tribe that we just talked about. And they are actually a tribe that believes that no pleasure whatsoever that is basically kind of like sinful. It's not something that you do. So sexual acts are performed in a hut. The woman is laid on her back on like a table that's tall enough for the man. She's covered. There is no contact, eye contact. There's nothing of that sort. The man comes in, does his business, and then it's about procreation, and that's it. It's not talked about. It's shamed. So which one is right and which one is wrong? So that's a good question, right? So I don't think that, my personal belief is that, whatever their belief system is true, right? It's true for them. And but my point that I'm trying to make as parents is that you need to be able to find what your belief system is to be able to teach your children, your teenagers. It's very important. You just need to know what it is. You need to be able to understand yourself and what your belief system is, because 9 times out of 10, no one is talking to their children, right? So, and a lot of times what happens is that here you have an 8-year-old child, and he or she has gone on the internet or has, gotten into some kind of a sexual act, and you're shocked and you punish them, right? Because you're just like, oh, I don't know really what to do. Usually that's really what happens with parents, is that they're just shocked and they really don't know what to do with the information. And they're thinking in their own brain as an adult what that actually means to the child. But it doesn't mean adult thinking in the child. So I just want to talk about that for just a second, what that actually, let's elaborate a little bit. What I mean by that is that your 8-year-old child doesn't view sexual things like breasts or penises or vaginas or feel good things like what we do as adults, right? We have a lot of experience. A lot of data has come into our brains through our lifetime that we actually say, okay, no, yes, okay, that's okay, or no, we don't talk about that, right? And so, but your 8-year-old or your 10-year-old or your 12-year-old doesn't have that content. They don't have that. I'm back again. Sorry for so many interruptions. So back to what I was talking to you about with your child not really having that concept that we do when we are seeing them act in adult ways, basically. And so, what I wanted to, that's the elaboration on. So, the important point that I'm trying to make to you as parents is that it's more beneficial to your child. I don't care what age they are. I don't care if they're 2 years old or if they're 5 or if they're 18. It's important to start very young on educating them on what sex is. And what I mean by that is, what is sex to you, mom and dad? What is sex what are you showing your child sex is? And what are they getting from all around, from school, from the TV, that all of the games that they play? What is being exploited to them? Because if you talk to them very early on about what sex is and that it is okay, sex is okay. If you as a parent are, very uncomfortable with sex, and all that it means and intimacy, then your child is going to have that same thing. Or you're going to say, hey, it's okay to tell your child, I'm not really comfortable with talking about sex. I'm not really comfortable about sex. It makes me too nervous. But talk to your child. That's the point of this. You need to tell them how it is that you're perceiving, because you don't want them to go out into the world and be completely confused and feel shameful about what is completely natural to them, right? It's a God-given thing. It is, something that happens. This is what Mother Nature created us to be, and they need to be aware. Because I know that you're definitely telling them about, don't do drugs, right? Don't be drinking and driving. Don't do all those things. But we don't set aside the time for that sex piece. And, if you have a really hard time with talking, or you have your own, internal, hang-ups, or it's just uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable, it's completely fine. Just say, okay, I don't really know how to talk to my child about sex. So go to a professional, right? Go to a sex therapist. Hello. You can reach out to me. There are books. The ones that I use for my son, it's information, right? So I gave him information about himself. And then when he was old enough, and when I kind of started, seeing the change, I wanted him to also know about women. I wanted him to know about girls and what was happening to them biologically. And so emotionally, I wanted him to be aware. And so I think that the point of this video is that you need to know where your comfort level is on a scale of 1 to 10. 0 being completely no way in hell, to 10 being no problem whatsoever. I can talk to my kids about sex, and that's what I do, right? So I'm wanting you to know where you are in your level as parents. Where are you on that spectrum? And, is there a comfort level? Can you say with 100% guarantee that your child understands what sex is and what the body is doing and what their body is about? This is a very interesting, I can't remember where I read this or where I heard this, but it does not come from me. But there is something that's kind of interesting, is that, boys, and men, by the time that they get to this sexual experience with another person, another partner, they're fully aware of their function of their body, meaning they understand that they have a penis and that it gets erect. They know that how to orgasm. Okay, they know how to do all of those things because it just is on the outside. It's natural. It's okay for them to have wet dreams. They know all of this stuff about themselves. Now you take the female, and then here's a young lady who knows nothing, right? They don't know that there's an orgasm. It's rare if that happens. They don't know about their they're all of their private areas. They don't know what the sensations are. There's so much to learn. And so now I would like for you to imagine that here is a person that knows a whole lot about how their body functions in a sexual and orgasmic way. And now you have a person that basically doesn't even know half of what this person knows. And then they try to get together. What do you think happens? It's not really a fair trade, is it? It's not really an equal partnership. So I want you to keep that in mind. But going back to parenting and sex, to your child, I think that the point that you need to take away from this video is that if you are very uncomfortable with your child and sexuality, then you need to reach out to a sex therapist. You can just call them. You can call me. You can email me, and I will refer some books to you or kind of talk to you. It's so very important. I've seen way too many times that a child at a very young age would be experimenting with something and was completely punished because they looked up something on YouTube, or I'm sorry, not YouTube, but the internet, and Googled something, or back in the day before internet, we had dirty magazines, and the boys would find their father's magazines or whatever. But now we have a way plethora of information, and this is what I told my own son when he went and was exploring online with the little neighbor boy. And this is what I said to him. I said, your brain is not at a capacity to where it can understand fully what is actually on the internet. You have to have a really good 30-year-old brain before you can kind of inhale that kind of information. So let's find another way, because you're curious. That's all that it is. When kids do that, when teachers, they're curious. They want to know. And so let's educate them. Let's educate them in a manner where it's safe, where it is, educational, and it is real, right? Let's not skip around on any, but it's age appropriate and it's real, okay? And so, he understood that. And so this is what happens, to our child's, our brains are developing. I mean, that's pretty common knowledge that the prefrontal cortex is developing as we get older, and it usually doesn't really fully develop until about 25, some people 28 years old. Okay, so let's educate them. Let's not throw them to the wolves. I've seen so many girls, teenagers, even older women, right, that have lived all their lives and had no clue. And then when they did go into this act, you want your child to come to you. You want your child to come to you when there is any kind of curiosity, or, hey, I did this, and what do you think? That is the best policy, is for your child to come to you in these times of major transformational changes. I'm a firm believer in that. If your belief system is, no, I don't want to talk to my child about sexuality, then at least get them to the resources that they need so they can get the help, right? Sex therapy is great for that. When people say sex therapy, they automatically think that, okay, there's something wrong. But sex therapy also is something right, okay? It could be education. It could be so many things that are a positive note. Or go and talk to a professional that says, listen, I'm having a hard time. Even professionals that are not in sex therapy, or they do types of sex therapy, or a sex therapist, even in my industry, in the healing industry, in the counseling industry, however you want to call it, even it is uncomfortable for them as well. That's what our society really has there, okay, is that not only is our population fearful. I don't want to say fearful, but they don't talk about it. neither does our professionals. You know, our professional industry it's very difficult for them as well. So that means that this is a big thing, and it needs to kind of come out. And so, you know, my goal is to help you as a parent to help your children be, you know, as well-rounded as possible, and for them to understand your belief systems, right? And then let them decide, right? Let them decide what their belief systems are going to be created, but at least you give them a platform, right? At least you have that for them. So I hope that this, you know, video was very informative. You know, if you want to reach out to me, you definitely can. This is a huge subject for me. I'm a pretty strong advocate for this. So if you need help, let me know. I am here for you. Like, share, and subscribe. Please comment if this was helpful, or if it was not, or if you would like to hear more about another subject. Okay. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.